Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Bellbrook City Council. Today's date is Monday, May the 11th, 2020. If you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight's City Council meeting is again a remote teleconference meeting. I am in the city building, as is the Clerk of Council, Pam. Everyone else on council, including the city manager, are connected remotely. So we had pretty good success last time. Let's hope it works again tonight. Pam, at this time, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Hoke,
Present.
Mr. Havens,
Here.
Dr. Van Veldhuizen.
Here.
Is Mr. Greenwood able to?
He's still trying to connect.
Okay. Mrs. Middlestetter,
Here.
Mr. Edwards,
Here.
Mayor Schweller.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Forrest on or?
I am not seeing him.
He's
Do we
getting
see-
assistance right now, so he might pop in. So he's having issues.
We'll excuse him now, and then if he joins us later, that's fine.
Yeah, that would be good.
We have a motion to excuse Councilman Greenwood. He's having technological difficulties.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Pam, could you
Motion
call-
was made by Dr. Van Veldhuizen to excuse Mr. Greenwood from this evening's council meeting, and this was seconded by Mr. Edwards. Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mr. Hoke,
Yes.
Mr. Havens,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mayor Schweller.
Yes, thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our last meeting, April the 27th, 2020. Does any member of council have any corrections or additions to the minutes of our last meeting?
No, Mayor.
Okay, seeing none, the minutes are approved as written. Thank you. Mayor's announcements. I have a couple tonight and a couple comments to make before we talk about before we proceed with the oath of offices. First, I'm going to wish our Bellbrook mothers a happy Mother's Day. I think the weather was not fantastic yesterday, but better than what they initially projected. Also, this past Thursday, May the 7th, was the National Day of Prayer. I was humbled to have been invited to present a proclamation on behalf of the city of Bellbrook. The ceremony was live streamed on Facebook and also on the radio. It was held at Christ Church by Pastor Paul Santoro. It was a very worthwhile community event, and thank you to Pastor Paul and the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Ministerial Association for organizing our national prayer gathering. May 10th is not only Mother's Day, but it's also the start of National Police Week. May 15th has been designated as Police Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls has been designated as National Police Week. Due to the COVID restrictions imposed by our governor, Chief Doherty will honor officers at a future council meeting. National Police Week is an event started by President Kennedy in 1962 in honor of police officers that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. The National Memorial Service began in 1982 as a gathering in Senate Park. It now attracts thousands of survivors and law enforcement officers to our nation's capital each year. And this year, it's going to become a virtual event. It's important that we appreciate and respect our officers and remember the sacrifices that they make for us. While we're thankful that no Bellbrook officer has died in the line of duty, it is important we recognize those from other agencies who have. Our police do the work we cannot do in the places we cannot go with the courage many of us do not have. Not many people get up 5 days a week to go to work, not knowing if they're ever going to come home. We do look forward to hearing from Chief Doherty at a future meeting. Again, a big thank you to the Bellbrook Police and the great job they do in keeping Bellbrook safe. If you use one of our officers this week, why don't you wave at them or possibly say thanks to them if you get the opportunity to do so. Thanks. Next on the agenda is the oath of office, and we have Thad Camp first. Is he ready?
I think so. I think he's coming on here now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready. I was I was watching the live stream and all of a sudden you guys came up to me. So yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah, there's a lag.
Okay.
Oh, so the live stream, I was watching the live stream and then now you came up to me. So let's do. Are you ready?
Yeah, I don't see it on the screen. Do you see it, Pam, or?
I just see you.
I know, I don't see you, Thad, but we can hear you. So
Okay.
that-
Okay.
Okay, Thad is going to be
Well, you
appointed.
can't see me, but
Okay, tonight we're going to appoint Thad Camp to the Village Review Board. Thad, if you can raise your right hand, repeat after me.
I
Thad
can.
Camp,
I Thad Camp
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio.
and will obey the laws thereof,
Will obey the laws hereof,
and that I will,
that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
uphold and enforce the provisions
uphold and enforce the provisions
of the Charter and the ordinances of Bellbrook,
of the charters and orders of Bellbrook,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Thank you very much and congratulations. Your term
Thank-
expires 1/31/2023. We look forward to having you serve.
Thank you, Mayor Schreller.
Thank you. Thank you. I will sign the oath and we'll have you stop by the office at one point in time when we're back, I guess, after COVID-19. You can sign at that point in time. Is that sufficient, Pam?
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Thank you, Thad.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Dad.
Hey, thank you.
Next on the agenda is the oath of office for Glen Coste, the Board of Zoning Appeals and Property Review Committee. Now, I know Glen's out there somewhere too.
I'm here, sir.
Okay. Are you ready, Glenn?
I'm all set.
Okay, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Glen Coste,
I, Glen Coste,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
uphold and enforce the provisions
uphold and enforce the provisions
of the Charter and the ordinances of Bellbrook,
of the Charter and the ordinance of Bellbrook,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office upon which I am about to enter.
of the office upon which I'm about to enter, so help me God.
Thank you. Thank you very much and congratulations. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Appreciate it. We're glad to be able to serve.
We look forward to it. We'll find a convenient date post-COVID-19 to get you to sign up on your oath of office here and memorialize it at that point in time, but I'll have it signed right now and dated today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for serving. Next on the agenda, we have resolutions. One resolution this evening, Resolution 2020-H. Mr. Greenwood signed to read it, but he is not on yet.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You're on the beach. You're on vacation.
I kind of like the looks of that better than what the back of me looks.
So do we.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll read this resolution number 2020-H. A resolution authorizing the city manager to sign an agreement with the Greene County Engineers Office for the collective paving program for 2020. Whereas the city of Bellbrook desires to participate for the Greene County Engineer and a competitive bid contract for the collective paving program for 2020 as bid by Greene County Engineer. And whereas the Greene County Engineer has included the city of Bellbrook's annual street program in their 2020 collective paving bid. And whereas the bid amount for the city of Bellbrook is $182,720.26 for the following streets: Bellmead Drive, Fowler Drive, Justin Court, Lynn Lee Drive, and a portion of Possum Run Road. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to sign the attached agreement with the Greene County Engineer's Office. Section 2, that the resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. And I guess, Melissa, you probably have some, we discussed this last meeting, we had questions. And I think we broke it down some for budget purposes from what we originally stated.
Yes, so I had a conversation with Stephanie Goff, who is the Greene County Engineer. And what we ended up doing after talking with Ryan and talking with Stephanie, we had made the decision to go ahead and move forward with Bellmead and Fowler, and then the small portion of Possum Run Road. And that would put us at 132,7610, so $132,076.10. And then we are going to reserve Justin Court and Lindley Drive until a decision can be made at a later date. And those roads separately total $50,644.16. So basically, what we're going to do is we're just going to wait until the last minute. They normally pave around August or September, so we should have a better idea of what finances look like at that point, because property taxes would be received for the most part, at least the bulk of them we would expect. And we would have a little bit better estimate in terms of gas taxes. If you looked at the first quarter financials that were presented at the last meeting, we were already $40,000 ahead in gas taxes than what we were at the same point last year. So we were already ahead there, which is a good starting point for us. So basically, we'll go ahead and do the two streets with the portion of Possum Run now, and then depending on how things look, we are able to reserve those other two streets until a later date. So there was another question from council to try to figure out or determine what exactly our percentage is in terms of cost savings with going with the collective bid program. And I did get the full bid tabulation from Greene County, and I did not get a percentage of savings that we've realized for this meeting by going with that collective bid, but there are 21 different municipalities, townships, cities, villages in Greene County that are participating in this program. And the full bid amount was just shy of 3.7 million. So our total was 173,492.25. That was before the 6% overage calculation that we use. So Bellbrook is only 5% of that whole entire bid. So we were a very small fish in a very large pond, so to speak. So that is what I have in terms of an update for the paving. So we can go ahead and commit tonight if council wishes, and then we can revisit the other streets at a later date.
That sounds good to me. Does anyone have council have any questions or discussion?
I've got a question, Mayor. Possum Run east of Clarkston, that distance doesn't seem any shorter or longer. It seems about the same distance as Lindley. Is there any reason why that Possum Run is so much less expensive?
I would have to see I don't know what the exact amounts were on that. Let's see.
Okay. Just curious, because Possum Run east of Clarkston is definitely in bad shape, but Fowler, I think, is in just as good a shape as Justin and Lindley. I don't really see much of a difference between those. Based on the projection of lost funding for the future due to COVID, I might recommend considering pulling Fowler off for right now too. Unless there's some reason to go ahead that I'm not aware of.
I'm assuming that Ryan looked at these streets and made his recommendation.
Yes, this resolution came from Ryan's recommendation, the way that it's worded tonight, yes.
I don't know for sure, but Melissa, you might know some of the difference in costs. Is that something to do with the scraping or some of the bid work? I'm not sure. I'm just throwing it out there.
You might be
That
right.
might be a
Forrest. I think milling is separate, and maybe
It's
some
separate.
of it. I don't know either. I'm not an expert. I'm going to have to defer to Ryan and his expertise and his
Yeah.
team. I mean, I'm assuming what we have in there has been prioritized by the service department. I can't speak to Ernie's point about why there's such a big discrepancy. That'd be kind of interesting to know, but I'm sure there is one. So anyway.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. And if I am able to get some of these questions ahead of time, I can absolutely have them for the meeting for sure. So I'm sorry that I don't have that information tonight. That's definitely Ryan's area of expertise, and maybe I should have had him on those.
I'm not
Zooms.
sure that
I do apologize
I'm
for
not sure
that.
that those questions are going to hold up any kind of vote on this. I mean, I could be wrong, but
Right. No, I just was curious if you knew off the top of your head. I didn't mean to
No.
pin you down or anything.
No, that's fine. I want to make sure that I have the best answers for you guys for any of your questions. So that's just unfortunately one that I don't have off the top of my head.
And Ernie, this has been a program that's been active in Belleville for a number of years. And I think it was back in probably early 2000, we set aside the sum of $150,000 a year just to stay current with it. And I know there's a number of cities right now, we're hearing quite a bit about Riverside, that they have done nothing for a while. And now they're looking at a multi-million-dollar project. They're going to have a separate tax for it potentially. So I agree that we should skinny it down a little bit, but I think that it's important we still kind of commit to the program. And I think the money we're really going to lose is, you know, the gas tax money, which we haven't seen a big hit yet, nor has the county. And secondly, we'll lose the local government fund. But the biggest number is the real estate taxes. And no one's going to be forgiven real estate taxes that I'm aware of. So those monies are going to come in at some point in time and probably just later. But I think it's important we try to stay with the program, at least for this year. I agree to skinny it down. I think what we did here is the right idea, but I think we go that approach, we'll at least stay current with these roads. We should bring Ryan in. It's been a long time, and there's a lot of people in council that didn't participate in it, but they've got the entire city mapped out by zones. And I know there's the street overlay program as part of that mapping process. It's also a big piece of how they determine which roads get plowed first, which roads get salted first. And they've really spent some time looking at it. And I think I know we have a service department report at some point in time, but maybe we should bring him in and have him speak to those things a little bit so we can all get up to date on what's happening. Because I think it's something they put together for the last probably 5 or 6 years ago. I know when Dale Wilson was service director, there was a lot of concern that we weren't going to plow every road every day, every snowfall. And lo and behold, we adopted a pretty decent comprehensive plan as to when to plow and how to plow. And knock on wood, I've heard very few complaints from citizens about it. So I think they've kind of got a pretty good tracking system set up. And thus far, it's worked out pretty good. But I think it'd be worthwhile to bring Ryan in when he does his update. He could talk a little bit about snow removal, a little bit about the paving program. But I think we're just so far ahead by having done this paving on an annual basis and not have to come through and put $1 million up for paving one year and then, you know, kind of drain everything else.
I will say that Stephanie Goff, Greene County engineer, did say that she wishes in the future to have this done sooner. So she said that her goal is going to try to get the paving program going for the next year, December or January. So it'll probably be much sooner that we hear about this again for 2021.
Maybe we can coordinate the service department update or the report about the same time he presents this, and then we can have a more in-depth conversation about it.
Yep.
Any
We'll
more
make
discussion?
first.
Any more discussion to council?
I just like the idea of preventive maintenance. It's so much less expensive in the long run.
That's exactly right. And I've even known of some condo associations, they've never done, and all of a sudden you have to do it one summer. They decide this is the time we have to do it. They typically have a little bit of the general fund that they've saved, but then they need to go out and do an assessment or something like that. And I say, man, it's so much better off, although with really short distances and not long roads, they have a hard time getting a competitive bid. I don't think you jump on Montgomery County or something like this, but without being part of a much larger bid, they'll be very, price sensitive. And if they do a small portion at a time, it's going to cost them a lot, but they had to just take the big hit and do it over like 2 or 3 years, but that's still kind of a huge hit to the budget. So. Any more discussion on resolution 2020-H?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, can we have a motion?
I can make a motion to pass 2020-H.
Okay, thank you, Forrest. How about a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Elaine.
Right. Mr. Greenwood made a motion to adopt resolution 2020-H, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign an agreement for the Greene County Engineers Office for the collective paving program for 2020. This was seconded by Mrs. Middlestetter. Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mr. Hoke,
Yes.
Mr. Havens,
Yes.
Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
Mayor Schweller.
Yes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the city manager report.
Okay, so we'll start with COVID-19 operations. So I had sent a communication to staff. We had a emergency operations staffing plan that went through the end of April. And of course, on April 30th, I needed to put something out to staff that was going to go into effect for May 4th. And put that out to staff, just saying basically we're going to continue operations as they have been, keeping the city building closed, remote work for everybody that can do it, and our staffing the same, and then just the implementation of wearing masks in the workplace. And that was pretty much the only change. And I said that everything would be reevaluated on May 15th. Well, we woke up the next morning to the stay-at-home order basically being continued until the end of the month. So I didn't alter my communication to staff, but it is my plan to just go ahead and continue that through the end of the month. And at that point, I was hoping that we would know what was happening with childcare centers and things like that today. And then that announcement didn't come, unfortunately. So I'm hopeful that the 1st of June, we should be able to restore staffing back and open up the city building again with some of these safeguards in place. So I think that that's probably what I'm going to do, and put that communication out to staff this week. Things have been going pretty smoothly with all of that. Like I said before, everybody's able to remote into their computers, answer all of our calls from an app on our cell phone, from our desk phones to our cell phones. And I mean, it's been business as usual. I mean, just without the exception of people coming in, but people are still getting permits and paying bills and doing all of the things that they need to do in the regular course of their lives. So that's my plan, is to just keep this going until the end of May, with the stay safe at home order being through that time period. I wouldn't anticipate needing to extend anything past that unless something drastically changes, but things seem to be going pretty smoothly. I would like to thank Sergeant Tony Vetter. He's organized the sanitation of 8 police vehicles and 7 fire vehicles at no charge to the city, which is pretty great. I think that that's going to occur on the 14th of May. So a company is going to come in and sanitize all those vehicles. And he also was able to fold in Sugar Creek Township as well. I think that they're getting 12 vehicles done as well. And I think it was their police vehicles were getting done. So That's being done by a company called Service Master by Angler. So a big thank you to Sergeant Vetter for that, and for that company for providing that service to our police and fire. The Parks District, I should note that the extension of the expiring term of Parks Commissioner Doug Wampler occurred. So there was an extension that was granted by Greene County Magistrate. And so his term was set to expire, I think it's the second Monday in May, which, should be happening right now. And so without them able to install somebody as they normally would due to COVID-19 and everything, they have offered an extension. So it's an open-ended extension at this point until the all clear has been given and we're able to hold interviews and get somebody else from the city of Bellbrook installed into that position. So the township also passed the same MOU that Bellbrook City Council did. They did that just this past Monday. So National Day of Prayer was on Thursday. The Monday right before that, they had passed that MOU as well. So it's in the hands of the Parks District, and once that signature is obtained, then we'll be good to go with that. So stay tuned for updates on the final execution of the MOU, as well as the expiration of the term for that extended term of that commissioner. And then, as the mayor said, Police Week is occurring now, started yesterday and runs until the 16th. And it's sad that we can't have the same awards presentation that we typically do. It's really nice. The entire police department comes out to support one another and the different achievements that they've had throughout the year. And it's just a really nice way for everybody to be in the same room and to just congratulate one another. And I'm just really sad that we can't do that this year, but they have just done a phenomenal job through all of this. I mean, they're still out there day in, day out, doing their thing and, putting themselves in a different kind of harm's way with all of the pandemic situation that we've been dealing with. And they've been forced to adjust some of the ways that they do things, and they've done so without missing a beat. And I'm just very proud to work alongside of all of them. And they're doing a great job. And the leadership of Chief Doherty is just superb, and couldn't be more thankful for the crew that we have. So big thank you to Bellbrook PD for all that they do. Two other things, Little Sugar Creek Road. Ryan and I met with a group called Coldwater Consulting. They work and have worked with Greene County Parks and Trails for some projects that they've needed to find funding for, and help identifying various solutions and alternatives to fix similar problems like we have with Little Sugar Creek. So it was an informative meeting. I shared with them the situation that we've got with Little Sugar Creek to try to get insight from them and how they might be able to help us look at all the different alternatives and try to really get all the information and cost out there so that we can make the best possible decision. So it's nice to have somebody else that's willing to take a look at this with us. I haven't done anything formally with this company yet, but we're just having some conversations. We're just trying to make sure that whatever decision we make for Little Sugar Creek really is the best decision for Little Sugar Creek, and then figure out how to pay for it. So I will keep everybody posted on that as that continues to evolve. Sable Ridge Gate. So this has been a very interesting situation, and I thought that we were going to have a much broader conversation about this due to the high cost of repair that was on the table. And I just thought that I would update everybody. So the gate's electric account, because it's an electronically operated gate, it's under this, it's a City of Bellbrook account. So when the gate malfunctioned, our service director called DP&L, and they said that since we are categorized or classified as a commercial account, we are responsible for anything from the box to basically the structure. If it's a residential structure or a residential situation, anything from the meter to the residence basically is the responsibility of the homeowner. Anything before the meters, the responsibility of DP&L typically. So they told us that they wouldn't be able to assist us in that. So our service director got a contractor to come out and take a look, and they gave us the quote that they did. The Sable Ridge Homeowners Association, it was a resident. I don't know if they were actually associated on the board of the Homeowners Association, but they had actually called DP&L themselves, and DP&L responded, and DP&L fixed the electrical issue. So we, as the account holder, didn't, when we did call, they told us that they couldn't help us. And then a citizen called and DP&L responded and fixed it. We're still not real certain how that happened, and we have not been sent a bill for anything like that. So if that happens, then we'll have to have a conversation about that. Ryan and I will have to have a conversation about that with all those involved. So long story short, the gate is operational, and we went ahead and we put it in the closed position. I did get an email and a call from folks on the Kensington side that were asking us if we would open it back up since Bellevue is closed, North Bellevue is closed. So it's a really tough situation because you've got folks on one side of the gate that want it closed, and you've got folks on the other side of the gate that are really inconvenienced by North Bellevue being closed. So I'm going to have a conversation actually on Thursday with the head of the Sable Ridge Homeowners Association about this. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask that the residents on the Kensington side work with the Homeowners Association. If both of those parties, groups of folks can come to an understanding, you know, that maybe the gate be left open until North Bellevue is closed, then I'm more than willing to do that. But it's just a really bad position to be in because you've got folks on one side that would really like for it to be open and folks on another side that would like for it to be closed. So I'm hopeful that the two communities can come together and hopefully get come to a workable solution for the two of them. So I am working with them, to say the least. I would also like to add that since this gate, ownership and maintenance of the gate was never put on the record plan with Sable Ridge, that I think that what we're probably going to do is look at possibly a memorandum of understanding between the Homeowners Association and the city in terms of the maintenance and repair and responsibility of that gate remaining with the Homeowners Association. So I'm in the very early stages of working that out, but it seems as if that's what the Sable Ridge Homeowners Association is interested in. And I'm going to look at that from the city's perspective with our municipal attorney. And that's kind of where I am with that. So I just thought I would update everybody on what happened with that, which was very surprising. So that's all I have for my report. Your mic's off,
There it is.
Mayor.
Oh, no.
There you go.
Any questions from Sable Ridge people about the gate? I've talked to a couple, they've been very happy with it being open, to be honest. They didn't see a huge influx of traffic and they didn't notice any big differences.
I feel like most of the correspondence was coming from the head of the Homeowners Association, which was very convenient for me. I was just dealing with one person.
Yeah, right.
However, I don't necessarily know if closing of the gate is the absolute majority of the feeling on the opening or the closure of the gate. I'm really not sure. I would be really curious to know from, you know, the Sable Ridge side and the Kensington side, just how many folks with or without, you know, Bellevue would like for it to be open or closed permanently. I'm just basically curious.
And I think the important thing is to get that memorandum of understanding so that if they have failures in the future, that we're off the hook for the repairs. Otherwise, I would think we may want to take a position to just remove it and be done with it all.
You're here.
Yeah. Any other questions of the city manager?
Melissa, if the police or fire feel that that gate being closed because of the bridge out, we could go ahead and just have a police order and open that, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely within our purview to open it. I was just trying to hopefully get those residents to kind of understand one another and come to a conclusion as a community. That would definitely make it easier for the city to open it if they can have that understanding amongst each other and everybody's on the same page. I mean, you're always going to have people that aren't going to agree with whatever's done, but that was my hope, is that as a community, maybe they could work it out and come to a conclusion on their own. But yes, that is the case. We could absolutely open it if we wanted to and keep it that way.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Melissa. Good report. By the way, would we have had the same connectivity remotely with our old phone system or old computer system that we have now?
When we did a bunch of the IT upgrades in 2019, this was part of it.
Okay.
The remote connectivity to the computers, the secure remote connectivity to the computers occurred when we hired on Tech Advisors as our IT firm, and then the phone system upgrade allowed us to have this capability. So 2 of them were relatively new, situations since I've started.
Okay. And I've heard no complaints about people not being in the city office. I haven't heard, I don't think we've missed a beat. I know I still got my utility bill, so I presume our bills did too. So. Okay. Any more discussion with the city manager?
I had just one comment or one question about Little Sugar Creek. When you're meeting with Coldwater Consulting, is the possibility or scope within that discussion talking about the walkability or the path along Sugar Creek? Is that something that could be integrated, or is that scope creep?
When we had our assessment of Little Sugar Creek by the civil engineer, I told them that whatever solution, if we had to have a full solution for the length of that road, basically from McGee down to Franklin, that I wanted to make sure that consideration of the inclusion of a walkway was part of that. So that is in their report. So they did look at the solution that the civil engineers came up with for correcting Little Sugar Creek Road, did include the option for, there were 3 different options. There was no walkway, walkway with a guard. There were 2 different walkway variations. So I have that full report that I can email to you.
Okay.
Actually, it's on our website as well.
Okay.
So walkway has always been part of that discussion for whatever solution, if it was a reconstruction of the road to stabilize it, then the walkway was always part of that conversation.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Any more questions?
Yeah, Mayor, if I can, I think it's just better now. Just 2 quick things. One, Melissa, again, with Little Sugar Creek, I think when it first came up, it seems a long, long time ago. However, when it did, you had talked about emergency sources of funding that the state and others had. And I guess I just want to say, as you talk to the consultant company, as you look at what we may or may not do, my experience has been that, especially in uncertain times, people that are prepared to take advantage of that funding, be ready to apply for the funding, know about it. So I might ask you in the conversations with them to see, is any of that still available? Can we apply? Can you earmark? Is there anything we can do? Because that funding may well disappear in the near future as an effect of this. So I just wanted to say that with respect to that. And then with respect to the gate, I'm with you. I hope that Sable Ridge and Kensington can come to some understanding. I appreciate it when the homeowners association, in this case them, for the good of the city, does something that benefits all. And I hope that they can come to an agreement there, and that other similar situations like that in the city will play out, being that yes, this is you, but we're all part of the city. What's best for the city, at least at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Dave. Appreciate it.
I
Anything
will
else?
speak to the funding piece just real quickly. The emergency funding is definitely something that has always been at the forefront, and we're really knee deep in it with the North Bellevue. So the funding actually replenishes on July 1st with the state's fiscal year. So I've already been in contact with OPWC, and we're in a much better position with a smaller project like North Bellevue versus, a $7 million project with Little Sugar Creek for emergency funding. So I am definitely looking everywhere that I can, but North Bellevue has kind of risen to the top of the priority list in terms of identifying funding for, but we're just farther along in that process than what we are with Little Sugar Creek at this point. So it's definitely something that I'm becoming well versed in.
Melissa, have we heard any more from Rick Prowlis? I know we had a communication back and forth with him, and he was going to go and exhaust a few other remedies or people to find out. I'll try to reach out to him tomorrow and see once. Okay.
Once we have the preliminary or the engineering suggestion and some better, more firm cost estimates for North Bellevue, we're going to be in a better position to try to locate money, because when you're not really sure about what you're asking for, it's much harder to try to identify possible sources when you're not really sure what you need. But we're very close to having a figure in terms of what we need so that we can really aggressively get out there and try to find funding. And with OPWC, the head of OPWC, the director, did touch base with our engineer and encouraged us to put on our preliminary application ahead of July 1. So once we have a better figure, we can put that figure on that preliminary application and get that in, which I look to do within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything else? Moving on, new business. Does anyone have new business to bring before council this evening?
I'd like to mention something about buildings and some of our zoning that maybe we need to look at. I'll just read what I wrote down. This is for the mayor and council. I want to discuss an issue I feel council needs to address. The issue is distressed buildings and a process to deal with same. We have several buildings in our city that have been vacant and possibly non-inhabitable. They are eyesores and dangerous to the public and health and safety. I can only guess why a landowner would allow this to happen, and that would be it is profitable to do this. Possibly tax advantage, holding out for a buyer to make a profit. I know some of the buildings are owned by persons not from Bellbrook. Sometimes a building is sold at a sheriff's sale. The buyer tries to resell for profit, and if it doesn't happen, the property sits and festers. The owner usually visits the auditor and has the taxes dropped to minimize their amount because of the condition of the building. So what you have is an eyesore, a safety issue, loss of tax revenue, irate neighbors, and a problem for city staff that eats up staff time and effort. And some of these buildings have been festering for a decade. Over the past several years, we have had 4 different zoning inspectors, different mayors, different council members, different city managers. At some point, this issue fell off the radar. I feel council needs to back city staff and bring this issue forward and solve it soon. We have a lot on our plate with a lot more to come, and this is easily solved if we decide to do so. I just wanted to bring it up amongst the other council members and basically work with, if we can, work with city staff and going forward, put a process together to deal with some of these issues. I think it would be better for our citizens and our business community if we do get something where we can accomplish some of these things. And I'm throwing it out there. I think some of the things maybe raise fines, put some deadlines out there, some of the regulations. But what's going on now, I think, is only going to get worse if we don't do something. And like I say, I don't have the answers, but I'd like to work with staff, and I know they got a lot of capability in that area. And,
Forrest, I would like to help you with that as well.
okay.
Just since our last council meeting, I've learned of about 4 properties, and this is just an informal discussion, but different business people have approached property owners to ask about investing or putting a business in somewhere, and the owner was indifferent. So I think if we could quantify and put details to, the greatest or the most prominent issues, and then maybe prioritize, I think I'd help you out with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. A piece of gutter falling down or peeling paint or something is one thing, but when you have buildings that are totally almost to the point of needing to be raised, and nothing happens, other cities take care of it pretty well. And like I say, we've had a lot of personnel changes. I'm not trying to make excuses, but like I say, it kind of fell off the radar. And this past several years has really been a lot different. And right now it's really different. And I just think at some point we need to address it.
Hey, Forrest, do you think this is an enforcement issue or not having stringent enough or strong enough laws to really enforce?
I think when we pass the civil penalties, they are there, but like the fines, I think it's easy to write a $250 check and just let it sit when you almost have no tax base and no incentive to do anything. Plus, I don't know I'm not a tax man, but they say you can save a lot of money by depreciating the building out. And so it may be profitable for the people that own these properties to do this. And I think if the fines got raised and we had some deadlines, that would end that issue.
Yeah, I agree. It might end some of it. I mean, I guess and I'll ask this to Melissa, do we have the ability to put liens on those properties for fines on zoning violations?
We do, but Forrest comes up with a good point. If somebody's facing, $5,000 worth of repairs, they're better off just paying the $250 fine and being
And
done
they
with
don't
it.
accumulate, do they? It's like a one-time deal.
Yes, that can definitely be looked at in terms of being more of a deterrent than just paying a $250 violation and being in compliance at that point. But then, we could keep going back after them for the same $250 over and over again. But how much staff time do we want to exhaust on something like that?
I think when we talked about that zoning change, it raised those fines. And I don't remember, it was the council was a different makeup. I think we were trying to avoid trying to be too punitive to people. And I thought at the time that maybe those fines were a little bit too light. And, now we've gotten complaints and there's issues with property maintenance. And I would agree with Forrest that, if that's an easy way to at least get some compliance, you're never going to get 100%. But I think enforcement is the key. And we have a zoning officer who can do that. And I think we just need to make sure that we have regulations that give her enough bite and enough teeth to really fix this problem. Because we've had some pretty well publicized issues in the last year. On properties.
I
A
agree
lot of
with,
property owners will leave properties deteriorate to the point where they can raise the building and then the property is a lot more valuable because it's vacant.
And I think that the majority of our businesses who take care of their properties want their neighboring businesses to do the same. I mean, that,
If I may, I think in general, Forrest, I agree with you. Specifics are good as to what we are talking about. Because as Nick says, different people on council at different times, eventually I became aware of one property in my neck of the woods that I think is becoming a issue for the neighbors. So I think when it's appropriate to address it, having the specifics, and also I would be interested in hearing from staff as to alternative strategies other cities or municipalities have used, because raising fines, stacking fines on there might help for some, it might not help for others for issues that y'all have raised. So I think there's more to learn than just we're going to raise the fines and see what happens.
Yeah, I can say it's not just businesses either. There are definitely vacant, decrepit residences that fall into this category, and they're just sitting there. Clearly, there's animals in the buildings. We definitely got to do something. Is there a way that we might be able to get some suggestions from our new zoning officer to kind of consider maybe next meeting or so?
Another thing, Ernie, to that point is we do have a list of the various properties that have been assessed and been charged, and maybe it'd be worthwhile to have her present where we're at right now. We've identified some of them, probably not all of them. We've identified some, and then the next step, I think, is just as you suggested, that we go and look and see what other cities are doing. I think Xenia has done quite a bit in that area, but I think a lot of cities are far more strict than what we are. Of course, they've got bigger staff to chase everybody down, but possibly we could have a presentation from Jessica to see where she's at right now, what properties are on our current list, and then we can kind of take it from there and see where we go and what our next steps are.
I will add, though, that there's been a property that had been a frequent flyer with the Property Review Commission. The owners are out of state, and it's in a residential neighborhood, and the neighbors have been beside themselves for years. It went through the Property Review Commission. They actually moved to the word slipping me, Pam. They moved to take it to the courts. Yeah, I don't know why.
They sent it for prosecution.
Thank you. They sent it for prosecution, and that case has been sitting in the courts for, I mean, it's probably been a year now, right, Pam? It's sitting in the courts, and our hands are tied, and they live in Texas. So the grass keeps growing. We go out there and cut it. We send them a bill that doesn't get paid. So, I mean, it's hard.
Yeah, there's a warrant out for the owners, but yeah, we don't know.
In extreme cases like this, can we shine a light on them? Can we put the addresses on the city website?
I don't know.
It's not going to help. I mean,
Yeah,
the
they're
people
out
in Texas, they have a warrant out for their arrest. They're not going to get extradited for a dilapidated property. I mean, they don't see it. It's out of sight, out of mind. And the real, the real victims to the whole thing is everybody that lives around them. So
It's way down on the priority list, and we all know where that one is, I think.
Yeah.
I would just say, if we're going to do this, we probably need to move on it quickly. Back in 2008, 2009, when we had the Great Recession, and I know we're in uncertain economic times right now, the issue with some of these properties is they became foreclosed and they became bank owned, and banks are overwhelmed with the amount of property that they had to take care of. And a lot of the issues with the maintenance, was due to banks or absentee owners. So I think if we have any way to streamline what we're doing or look at fines, we probably need to look at it sooner rather than later, because I don't.
This one we're talking about is not related to that.
I get what Nick's saying though, because we could have much more of an issue. This could become much more of an issue than what it is present day.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think let's use our best new resource, which is Jessica, and see what her suggestions are, and then back her as much as we can.
Yeah, with her being the expert, Melissa, again, you always have done a good job of laying out not just what surrounding communities do think of issues, but alternative ways of addressing it. So it would be interesting to hear from her that there's got to be more than one way to skin the cat, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And what properties are already being actively enforced upon, and maybe having a list of that would give us some confidence. At least some things are going in the right direction. But I think the way Mayor Schweller said it, definitely just help us as council members be more aware of what exactly is going on and what some of our options could be.
Can you include the BZA chairman in the conversation too? Because I don't want them to feel we're just like jumping over them and expressing our own concerns. We just want to make sure that they're involved.
Actually, Pam, they have a meeting. Is it this coming Tuesday, or is it this Tuesday or next Tuesday?
Yeah, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday, the 19th.
So that actually could be put on as a discussion item to see if they have any thoughts, since that is their area. And they have been very involved in, this worst case scenario that I just outlined. And it's a very recent worst case scenario. So it would be nice to hear their perspectives. And since they're already meeting, that conversation could be had for some, direction from them as well.
Okay.
Very good.
We'll add it to the agenda.
Thank you.
Kind of along these line items, not just from a service standpoint, but trying to understand the root causes. If, let's say, some property owners just don't know what to do, I had seen, at least in my day job, the Air Force has had industry days or pitch days where they say, okay, entrepreneurs, come in and we want to align you with resources to get you on contract. Would it be possible to conduct sort of a pitch day with the city of Bellbrook, saying entrepreneurs or businesses who want to do business in Bellbrook, align property owners who are in a position where they want to get rid of their property but might not know what to do? Is that something possible, or would that be an administrative headache at this point? Or are there other similar options?
I'd have to think about that. So I don't want to answer that right away.
Sorry to.
No, I mean, it's an interesting concept, but I'd want to know more about that.
Okay.
I'm open. I'm definitely open.
Okay.
But I'm also wise enough to know what we have to work with.
True.
Yeah. Understand.
Any more new business? Any more discussion on forced points? Okay. Old business. Any old business? Then I believe so. That takes us to our committee reports. First is service. Mr. Greenwood.
I guess I got to turn on the microphone. The service department is, I spoke with Ryan. They're working in the conditions of the COVID world. And one of the things they've done is their licensed water personnel, well, all their personnel actually, they split each cruise, separating each other. So not everybody hopefully would come down sick. They're being real cautious of that because they, their jobs sometimes has to entail one or two or maybe 3 or 4 people. So they're really being cautious with that. And, when they do a job, it's usually for a longer period of time. So their corona world is a little bit tougher to deal with than some other places. The other thing, The let's see. One of the service department fellows was mowing up on Bledsoe, and one of our young citizens put a note on his truck while he was mowing. And the note basically said they thanked him for working. And, you know, when something like that happens, you know, you're working hard and you're dealing with what we're dealing with, that really uplifted everybody. You know, that goes a long way with morale. So that they really appreciated that. So that's all I have for service. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing that, Forrest. Next up is the Safety Committee. I know TJ is kind of involved in it. I know you've got a baptism by fire. I'll give you an opportunity to speak to it. And if not, I don't know if Forrest has anything to add to it or if Elaine has anything to add. We'll start with TJ.
Sorry, I had to unmute. No, I spoke briefly with Forrest ahead of this meeting. By next council, I'll be much more up to speed. Just going to continue the work that Forrest was doing, but more at a later date.
Okay, thanks. Forrest, anything to add from your talks with them or?
The only thing I always try to go, you know, I speak with the city personnel, but also get a lot of emails from the state and other departments, and I try to look at the big picture, try to help out and keep council informed. You know, that's basically what we should do, is keep the other members of council informed. And the only other thing I'd add, there's CARES Act grants. Melissa, I'm not sure if you're familiar with those. They're floating around, and some new ones have been popping up for various other things. I don't know if we've been really paying much attention to it. If you know, I know one of them is updating communications. I don't know if we have any desires in that area or not, but the world we live in is constantly changing, and there's a lot of needs that maybe we have and maybe somebody else doesn't, but the state has been trying to address some of this with the grants to try to keep things going because of, you know, what's going to happen here soon and with the budgets and everything. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Nick, Finance and Audit.
Just a couple things. Our financial statements, our quarterly financial statements, which we approved at our last meeting, was filed last week. And our audit will begin on June 1st. The only question I have on that, Melissa, is it going to be a pre-audit meeting or conference call with our accountant?
They haven't put that out yet. They typically do. So I had not heard about that just yet, but I know that they're going to be on site for just preliminary work the week of June 1st. So
if they do that pre-audit meeting, which we've done in the past when the state did it, could you make sure that the finance committee, audit committee gets invited to that?
Yes, will do.
They're not really exciting, but I think we should be in the loop on what they're going to do and the scope of their work.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Elaine, Community Affairs.
Okay, before I do community affairs, just a comment on the safety. I read a very interesting paper this morning from a professor at Dartmouth College on the transmission of the COVID virus. When you're outdoors, the transmission rate is far, far less than it is when you are in a enclosed room, rebreathing the same air all the time. So the guys who are working outside do have that advantage. I will forward that on. It was quite interesting. He had prepared it as part of a class that he's teaching. Community affairs, we are, with the 2 swearing in ceremonies tonight, we are at full capacity on our boards right now. Hallelujah.
Very good. Very good. That's a good thing to hear.
And that's it on community affairs.
Okay, thank you. Now we're to open discussion. And I guess I can start with whoever wants to start with first.
Melissa, I did check on my question. I was incorrect. I think the fact that Possum Run Road was so bad, I must have missed passing the city limit sign. I looked at the map and it is a pretty short run that's just in the city on that road. So I answered my own question.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not as long as Lindley, but boy, it is in rough shape for sure. That's all I've got for open discussion.
Okay, thanks. Forrest.
I think the city's doing a good job under the circumstances. And I think if we keep going the way we are, we'll be fine. And appreciate all the departments and what they do every day. And Melissa, you're doing a good job keeping us straight. So thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you, Forrest. How about TJ?
Yeah, it's just a follow-up comment to the discussion that Forrest brought up regarding delinquent properties. If resources is a constraint, we might want to consider reaching out to Sugar Creek because I know sometimes because of the unique shape of our city, sometimes the properties within Sugar Creek and Bellbrook are intertwined. And while it might be one or the other, I think both organizations would benefit.
Okay.
And that's all I got. So second council meeting in. Thanks all again. Getting smoother.
Okay, thanks. Elaine.
The only thing I want to tell folks is that on Wednesday, May 27th, watch for the flowers. The Garden Club is doing their civic planting, so we will have color in downtown Bellbrook.
We look forward to it. Hopefully it won't be snowing that day.
Oh, it has been crazy, has it not?
Yes, yes. Thanks, Lane. Dr. Dave.
Yeah, sir, just in general, I've been very tickled over the last few weeks. Being a runner and a big walker, I cover a bunch of the city. A lot of people have taken advantage of getting out. A lot of people are taking advantage of prettying up their yards. I've met more people in the last 2 months than I have in 2 years. And just, it's just been a pleasure to see how our residents are handling the situation, working together. And as part of that, every time I see one of our police officers out, I usually stop by, just say hello and see how it's going. And everyone I've talked to has been an excellent representative of the city. Appreciate their efforts. And Melissa, I mean, pass that on to the chief. I'm very tickled to have the officers we do. So that's all, sir.
Love hearing that. Thanks. Deputy Mayor Nick Edwards.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just echo Dr. Dave's sentiments on our police and also our city managers. It's police week. You know, their job's always difficult, always. I don't care, you know, the size of your city. But this just makes it harder. Just makes them one more thing they have to think about. It's unfortunate we can't recognize them this week in person, but as the mayor indicated, we'll be able to do that down the road, hopefully soon. That's all I have.
Thanks, Nick. I don't think I missed it. Was everybody covered now? I think. I just want to congratulate Thad and Glenn. It's nice to have the boards all filled. And again, these are all volunteer positions and sometimes they take a lot of time, sometimes not that much time, but it's always a good thing to have our boards filled up. And I'm glad we have enough citizens coming forward that we're able to fill those seats. And this is 2 new people that we've known about and heard about, but now they're going to take an active role in the city. So congratulations to them. Then with regard to police work, again, if you see one of our officers this week, thank them or give them a wave or say hi to them. They do a great job for us and we're pleased to have them. Does any member of council have any other business to come before our meeting tonight?
No, Mayor.
Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.